practice. For more tutorials, subscribe to the channel. In this lesson, you will learn general information about writing task 1. All types of questions. How to approach the task. And Band 9 structures. What is the IELTS writing task 1? People doing the academic test will write a report on a dataset, map, or process. People doing general training will write a letter. You must write 150 words or more. You should spend around 20 minutes on this part of the test. Task 1 is worth 1/3 of your total mark on the writing test. You will be assessed in 4 areas. They are: task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range accuracy. Note that the most important thing is that you can demonstrate that you can clearly communicate in English. The key to doing well is to know exactly what the examiners want and giving it to them. Let's move on types of questions. In general, there are 2 types of questions: static data and movement data. The difference is that static data shows one time scale only, while movement data shows a number of different time scales. For example, a static data chart may show the population of 5 different cities in 2003, and you need to compare the numbers. A movement data chart would show the 5 cities in 2003 and 2013, and you need to compare the changes in the situation from one time scale to the other. Example chart 1 is an example of static data. Example chart 2 is an example of movement data. There are 6 types of questions that you can see in the exam. The first one is the line graph. The second one is the bar graph. The third one is the pie chart. The fourth is the table. The fifth is the map. And the final one is the process diagram. How to approach the task. If we look to band descriptors, we can see that to get band 7 or higher, we should organize the information in logical way. First of all, we should divide the data into 2 groups. In the line graph, we can divide the data into 2 groups in terms of increasing and decreasing trends over the period. Looking at this line graph, we can see that the figures for UK and Sweden decreases, while the data for Italy and Portugal increases over the period. So, in that case, Group 1, UK and Sweden. Group 2, Italy and Portugal. Note that if there are only 2 trends in the line graph, I think the best thing for us to split the groups by year. For example, in this line graph, I can see that there are only 2 trends, and if we divide these trends into 2 groups, we wouldn't be able to easily make comparisons, which of course is a big skill in describing this data here. So, Group 1, 2011 to 2012. Group 2, 2013 to 2014. In the bar graph, we can divide the data into 2 groups, the highest trends and the less popular trends. If we look this graph, we can see that romance and mystery are the highest trends. Others are less popular trends. So, in this reason, Group 1, romance and mystery. Group 2, young adult, classics, sci-fi and fantasy. In the static pie chart, we can divide the data into 2 groups, the biggest figures and the small figures. In this pie chart, we can see that Hispanic and white are the biggest figures. Others are the small figures. So, in that case, Group 1, Hispanic and white. Group 2, African, American, Asian. In the movement pie charts, we can divide the data into two groups in terms of increasing and decreasing trends over the period. Looking at the first chart, we can see that the figures for electronics and home furnishings were 35% and 25% in 2005. In 2010, these numbers decreased to 30% and 15%. Regarding the figures for video games and food and beverage, we see that these figures were 18% and 22%. And this numbers increased to 23% and 32%. So, it is clear that electronics and home furnishings are decreasing trends. In contrast, video games and food and beverage are increasing trends. In that case, Group 1, electronics and home furnishings. Group 2, video games and food and beverage. In the table, we can split the data into two groups in terms of increasing and decreasing trends over the period. In this table, we can see that the figures for Africa, Europe, and Oceania increased over the period, while others decrease. In that case, Group 1, Africa, Europe, Oceania. Group 2, Asia, North America and Central America. In the maps, there are lots of ways you could group these maps. The simplest way is split the map into the top and the bottom. In that case, Group 1, housing, farmland, golf, forest park, tennis. Group 2, shop, restaurant, hotel, car park, fish market, apartments. In the process diagram, we can split the data into two groups by dividing the total number of stages. For example, in this diagram there are 14 stages and we should divide the total number of stages by 2. 14 divided by 2 equals 7. So, Group 1, stages 1 to 7. Group 2, stages 8 to 14. Let's move on. Band 9 structures. There are two very good structures. In fact, there is no big difference between them. As you see, in the first structure, you shouldn't write summary. In the second structure, instead of writing an overview, you should write summary in the final paragraph. If we look more detailed to the first structure, I should say that in the introduction, you must paraphrase the task. In the second paragraph, you should write an overview. What I mean by that, you should write main changes, differences or stages. In the third paragraph, you should write detail information for Group 1. In the fourth paragraph, you should write detail information for Group 2. The second structure is quite similar to the first one. In the second structure, you must paraphrase the task in the introduction paragraph. In the second paragraph, you should write detail information for Group 1. In the third paragraph, you should write detail information for Group 2. In the summary paragraph, you should summarize the key trends and the key exceptions that you have described in the main body. Both of them are very good structures. Which is the easiest to write for you? Choose and try to write in this structure. Personally, I prefer the first structure. But, as I said it is up to you. That brings us to the end of our lesson. So, in this lesson I explained general information about writing task 1, all types of questions, how to approach the task, and band 9 structures. If you found this lesson useful for you, like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next lessons.